Financial trade tracker. Where'd you get all those lists? That list?
I don't know. I made it myself. I did my fucking homework. That's what I did.
Good.
I'll pull it up.
Lead us off.
I have a different opinion, I'll let you know. And if your opinion isn't a good one, I'll let you know.
Would you take Bo or Max Domi? When Jim Benning gets to the table and he sees JT Miller, I think that's what made him hit the gas.
You make those trades.
Look at what he's done being emerged into our lineup. It's night and day.
He's going to be our next Sammy Saddle, besides playing half a game a year.
So sick of people acting like he hasn't been that bad. He has been atrocious. It's these mental gymnastics you have to go through to get to Collins' mind space on this trade is just, to me, it's way too much. Mr. Horvat has been bad. He's our captain. This is such a stupid take, Colin.
Yeah, I'm really fine with soft opens anyway. So welcome to the Hockey Hour. It's another episode. We're covering quite a bit, obviously. It's been a crazy couple of weeks here. We have lots to talk about, obviously. Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the Canucks. We've got lots of trades. Voracek for Atkinson. Reinhart to Florida. We've got lots of big signings with Makar getting his big deal. Seth Reinhart even getting a bigger deal. What that means for the market going forward. Guys like Quinn Hughes. Just lots of questionable moves and lots of moves that we'll see what they'll have an impact on the rest of the market. Things like Taylor Hall signing for a team-friendly deal to win now, and Carolina sniffing a whole lot of glue to do I don't know what. But yeah, I know it's going to be an interesting pod. We got lots to cover. Is there anything you guys want to say? We got boys.
No.
Both the boys are here.
No, I just I think Austin and I both will have a segment where we kind of rip into our fans a little bit because they can't make their mind on what they want in their lives. But other than that, I think we could it'll be good. It'll probably start with we're gonna start with what the Canucks did because we're Canucks fans. So we'll start with that big trade. I think that was easily the biggest trade Benning's made in his tenure as our GM. I'd say easily. That was a huge trade. It's funny that day that I texted you guys about like how Benning's not doing anything and how like I'm just getting sick and tired of it. He does that. So that was mad. Like I didn't expect if he was ever gonna make a trade to offload contract, I didn't think it'd be like basically every contract that we had that was a bad one. So I mean that was in my opinion when I first saw that trade, I didn't know what to think about it. I was praying that first round pick wasn't included, but I mean I wasn't shocked that it was. But you know what? I've had a couple days to think about it, and I really like it as of right now. I'll let you guys go soon, but I'll say one thing. Connor Garland might be the prize piece of that trade. He's freaking so underrated. It's not even funny. He's been compared to Brad Marchand. I'm not saying that's what he is, but you know, you're getting a really, really good. He's gonna fit so well with this team, in my opinion, just with the way Horvat plays and whatnot. Like he's just a perfect guy to add to this team. And then Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I think the Sedins had a lot to do with that one. Like, you know, they know this market, they know what we've been through, and I don't think that they advise Benning to pull the trigger if they're not confident in what we're getting in return. And it's not like we just traded for Louis Eriksson again. Like I don't want to hear that crap. Like that comparison's so stupid. It's not Louis Eriksson. This guy can still play hockey. He's still a top 4 defenseman. But we'll start with Dylan because he looks very enthusiastic right now.
No, go with Austin.
No, I want you to go because I want to hear you because I have a
Dylan
whole
looks
lot
half
to say.
asleep right now.
Like what is your initial, first couple thoughts? Because I know you weren't exactly ecstatic.
Very complex. This deal, more than anyone's talking about. There's many facets to this deal. It does not fit the picture of how I would build this team. I think it's rushing to build this team. I think we were finally getting out of all those contracts. We had one more year to ride out, and then we would have been free of them, and we could have finally done what we wanted. I complained about that with the Myers and the Schmidt contracts. It was just adding another bad contract, I felt. And I feel we're adding another bad contract with Ekman-Larsson. He's a pretty decent defenseman, but he's certainly not worth his contract, not even close. I don't think you guys can even argue that because we all know that's true. So there's that. So we took on another bad contract for 6 more years. Don't like that. We're finally getting our cap space free and available to us. We now have Schmidt, Myers, and Ekman-Larsson on the books, all of which I would say are overpaid defensemen. So I don't like that. I don't like giving up a 9th overall pick at this point. I believe we should still be building towards the future. I believe that this team is not close. I believe that this team a team in our position shouldn't be giving away top 10 picks. We should be trusting the process, getting the bad cap dollars off the books, continuing to draft well, and then as our players show signs of being able to get into the playoffs and push a good team to 7 games or potentially go deep, then we should start selling off these picks. We're nowhere near that. We made the playoffs once. We probably wouldn't have if COVID didn't end the season early. So we're by no means a contender. We're at best a bubble team. You can't say we're more than that because that's all we've shown to be. At this point, we barely squeezed in the playoffs one time. So this is not the time to push all in. Having said that, you're absolutely, Garland is the best piece of it. A lot of this trade comes down to what he signs for. If he signs a big, fat, overpaid contract, it looks even worse. Same with the Dickinson deal. If he signs a good contract with good value, that adds value to the deal. That is just how that works. I mean, you have to look at these players and look at the contract you're getting. That's why it's such a big question mark. That's why the JT Miller deal was so good, was because his contract is very reasonable and it was for 5 years. So it made him, it adds to his value, the fact that he's on a good contract. And so it really depends when you're trading for these RFAs who are unsigned, what they sign for before you can really judge this trade. Well, wait. I gotta finish because I'm so close to being done, and then you guys can go. The interesting part of this deal, and no one's talking about, but it's the most important part, is that Ekman-Larsson in the last 3 years of the deal, it's very buyoutable due to how the dollars are. So you can buy it out in 3 years if he really keeps regressing, and you have that huge benefit. So that is the silver lining that I didn't know right away, that it's some insurance in case plan A doesn't happen.
Yeah.
What this deal says is we've traded away the first round pick for JT Miller. We've traded away another one now. We got Podkolzin was our other one who's coming into the lineup now. So our prospect cupboards are empty. In the last 3 years, we've had 1 first, 1 second, and 1 third round pick. Nothing else in the top 3 rounds in 3 years. We got no prospects left. We're all in now. This team has to make the playoffs. They have to be pushing for contention. They have to look like they can win some rounds. It has to happen now because with how our cap's lining up and everything, we're probably worse in 3 years. Yes, PD will get better. Besser will probably be a bit better, but you'll also have Hogliner might be better. Podkolzin might improve, but you'll also have guys like Ekman-Larsson, Myers. Who knows what happens with Schmidt? But all these guys will be aging too, so you're gonna have some regression too. So these next few years have to be good. We're all in now. We have to be a good team.
Just this glass right here is half full, and I'm gonna move it to your position because just kidding.
It's a little half empty.
Austin, you can go.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what you said, it makes a lot of sense. There's nothing that's wrong with that. I mean, it is a lot to take on. That's the one thing that's tough, right? Like, once again, we've just seen over and over again Benning bring on bad contract after bad contract. So I think familiarity plays a role, right? Like, we've seen this how many times. I guess my little bit of a rant was kind of around this whole topic, but it was that idea of just make up your mind, essentially. A lot of the time, I have one thing for the fans and one thing for management. So I'm playing both sides of the coin here. Make up your mind in the sense of, like, be mad about something, like not everything, but pick something. If you're mad that we're regressing, I get it. Then when we make decisions to get better now, don't get fucking mad. Like, I'm over it. If we say, hey, it's going to be another 2 years before we could contend, and then you get mad about that, it's like, okay, well, do you want us to be patient or do you want us to win now? Do you want us to make hockey moves that put us in a position to win, or do you want us to sell off on our players and wait out these contracts, which I'm sure everyone has said, we can't wait for another 2 fucking years of Benning, waiting out these contracts just to be able to compete. Everyone talked about that being a joke. So make up your fucking mind. Like, we need to be able to take advantage of these guys on their cheap contracts, assuming they're all, PD, Hughes, and whatever else we have left with these young guys coming in. I mean, not young guys, but new guys, sorry, Dickinson and freaking Garland, I imagine all of them have had these conversations of this is how much cap we're looking at. This is the deals we're going to have to make. All, Petey and Hughes have both said they want to do, or not both said, at least we've heard that, I guess I shouldn't put words in their mouth, that we've heard that they want to do short-term deals to wait for that cap to open up to sign something big. Like obviously enough money to make it worth it, but sign a 3 or 2 year deal even and see where the window's at. Just because they know they're not getting, like, not many teams are going to be able to hand out $9 million like they did to Cale Makar or to Seth Jones. If they're doing that with Makar, obviously they're committing to Landeskog leaving or signing for dirt cheap. So you have to think of these decisions that they're making when they make those deals. We can't go make the exact same ones right now because of the situation we're in. And all those young players and new players have to have already had those conversations with their agents. If Jim Benning hasn't, then he's just as incompetent as we always thought. So there's nothing new there. Also, one thing to point out is I felt this is one of the best showings of Jim Benning's patience. Mm-hmm. Everyone acts that he doesn't know how to fucking trade. And when he does, he just snaps at the back and call and takes whatever because he doesn't know what he's doing. But we've known for at least a year now that they've wanted Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Ekman-Larsson's wanted out, right? Like that was the worry. It was that Benning wants Ekman-Larsson. Like he might make some stupid trade. And like last year, if he made a stupid trade, it would have felt bad. Yeah, they wanted Demko. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. But because that was the asking price, they could have got all these picks plus more. And that's the scary part for me. And I think that that's very realistic to have happened. And I'm going to keep going for a minute. What? Okay. What?
I actually think it's one of the worst showings of Jim Benning's patience. You were a year away from all those contracts coming off.
Yeah, but they weren't going to take that last year.
No, but my point is you were a year away from Roussel, Beagle, and Center coming off the books. Or Roussel, Beagle, and Harrison coming off the books. So all he had to do was be patient for one more year.
I disagree, but I'm going to let Austin keep kind of doing his thing, and then I'll interject after.
I mean, I know, and I'm going to play the other side of the coin. Don't worry. That's what I outlined from the beginning of this. That's what happens. It's all good. No, I don't care. I was going to say, at the end of the day, though, obviously Arizona has changed their philosophy of the way they're going to go about hockey. Because last year they would not have, they were trying to offload them because they didn't have money. And now they're taking all these dead money contracts to do things and retaining salary. They would never retain salary last year. So there's just certain things that I think, yes, of course we could have waited one more year and we would have fucking heard about it from everyone about how this is terrible hockey to watch and can't believe we re-signed these guys and haven't we fired Benning yet. We would have heard that all year. So I don't know. I just say, don't give me that shit because you would have been the one complaining about it too. I think I would have been too. I would have been like,
you gotta remember this team to be built. Most of the deal is Aquilini telling Benning to make the playoffs.
And also too, this is like a lot of the way I
still hope that they go on the path they see for
Aquilini told Benning to do something with the cap, get this team better, and he did that. He was told to do.
I have no argument. I can still want them to do the way I think a team should be built, which is
sure, but then you can't sit there and say, well, Benning is not being patient then because it's not.
I'm saying he should have been patient. Let the bad contracts come off.
No, but what I'm saying is that the guy who is in control of his job told him what to do.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Well, what do you want Benning to do then?
I want the organization.
But how do you know he didn't go to Aquilini and say that, and then Aquilini?
I'll just say this. Right. Last year, we know we wanted to be able to buy out contracts, and we weren't able to, right? So we wanted to make those moves at the appropriate time, and obviously it wasn't able to lay out, and just because of, unfortunately, poor management and organization within the whole organization. I don't know that word spewed out wrong, but it's just like, I also have all these aspirations that the Canucks are going to do things. And I know fucking Travis Green's still the head coach, so that's never going to happen. And I know Aquilini's still the owner, so it's never going to happen. Like, I just can still talk about these points and just say that. And I guess where I'd flip the coin is to management, which is also kind of the same message, which is fucking make up your mind.
Yeah.
Are we going to be patient or are we going to go now? And that's what I can understand is definitely frustrating because I felt the same way of I was all for being patient and letting them all right off the books, but I knew 98% of Canuck fans would lose their mind and we're such an emotional organization, we probably would have reacted and let Benning go anyway. And then a new guy would step in. And although most of the time when a new guy steps in, it's okay because he has a good base and he can make 2 or 3 moves he wants to. But sometimes when you bring a new guy in, he wants it to be his fucking way too. And that is not great for an organization. I just foresee all those things playing out. So us taking, a decision of trying to win now, making a move for Ekman Larsson, I felt was smart just because it's like, okay, realistically, this market would never have laid that out, as well as if we are able to convince these guys like Petey and Hughes and obviously now Garland and Dickinson to sign on team-friendly contracts that also help them realize that you guys are entering the peak of your careers for these next 6 whatever years, and we need to be able to be in the opportunity to win now with the certain pieces we have around us. I also am pretty sure, at least what I believe, that we don't make that move if we think Schmidt's staying. No. I think that I know. And obviously the same thing, like we heard Elliot Friedman on their podcast, 31 Thoughts or whatever, basically just said, yeah, he wants out. So it's clear that move is going to turn in. And I guess that's also, once again, we say that these trades, the value for these players don't really pan out in the trade. It's when they sign the contract. I also think that might be a key, is that if let's look at this deal with Ekman Larsson and then let's see what we flip Schmidt for, depending on what that is. If that's a bad trade-off too, just because he wants out, then we might be setting ourselves back in the wrong situation too. I know, but I'm just saying, no, the cap, that's what I'm saying, is I think that they have to move him regardless, especially if he wants out. It's a little bit different if he's like, I don't think I'm a fit here, but let's see now that you've brought in these pieces. But if it's just like, hey, I don't, I can't see my family, I can't do what I want, I'm just not into this. We know that, X% more now free agents and players are saying, don't move me to Canada, because they want to be able to see their families. Yeah. It's unfortunate because of the way that our laws are now panning in with the COVID shit, but that's an adverse reaction to life. Mm-hmm. That's just what happens. So I guess at the end of the day, this trade really was just a recapture for all of Jim's mistakes, which is something to outline too. Like we pretty much just traded away all of his bad contracts, which is okay, but that's something to acknowledge, and that this by no means is a home run of a trade. As that's all we have to say, is that I don't know. I just think that we've made a decision to try and compete with our best pieces at the discounts we're going to be able to get them. And if it means biting the bullet on an Ekman Larsson, well, once again, I feel about Travis Green, but most people feel that they've seen this team be able to be coached at the highest level of Travis Green's potential, which has been the series against Vegas. And people still see that as a shining light, as an opportunity that we can win now. Mm-hmm. Once again, there's so many ifs, ands, or buts that leave this all up for grabs. But I just think at the end of the day, fans, management, maybe not us, because we talk about this all the time. We change our mind all the time. But, make up your fucking mind.
I want to say something. I'll add on to that. I agree. But I want to say one thing, that our fan base, man, they're a bunch of fucking whiners. Like, honestly, like they are. It's all, I get it. Like, you're passionate, but like, just bitch about everything. Like, you're never happy with anything. Like, honestly, every trade that Benny makes, anything he does, you find a way to bitch about it. Like, shut the fuck up.
There's many fans with many different.
I don't care. Shut up. Like, get over it. Like,
no matter
cry. It's all it is.
It's not always the same person crying, though, right?
It's the same majority. I'm on Twitter, and everyone just whines about everything. Like,
when you have a group of fans.
Okay, this is excessive, though.
You'll have different visions. That's one thing I will say to your point that I was thinking. The reason why it feels like is because the people complaining are usually the most vocal. But, even if it's a 50-50 split and they have one vision and the other 50 has another, you're going to get that complaining either way, right? So that's why it feels like they're never happy. But I think most people have a consistent, especially hardcore fans, consistent idea of how they want the team to go.
Okay, but again, what I'm saying is I'm on Twitter and it changes the
I
perspective.
know, but Colin, not just in the Canucks or hockey, but in pretty much every subject, people will complain about exactly what you're complaining about right now. Whereas you can never make this online majority happy, and I'm explaining you never can. You can't make a large group of people. It's just like politics. Why the vote is always split so close to 50-50 is because people think things differently. And you're never going to have a unified group of thousands and thousands of people.
No, I know, but there's a certain portion, is what I'm saying, a certain portion where they complained since his tenure started about all these bad, well, not his tenure started, but they've complained about the bad cap, and they're the same people who kind of see from your point of view, and they're like, okay, trade these contracts, and he did trade the contracts.
But he took on another bad contract.
Yes,
not
but it's not like we took back Louis Eriksson or John Scott.
But Colin,
we've taken back.
I just don't know what else you want him to do in that
wait
situation.
for the contracts to go off the books is what I wanted, and draft.
Yeah, but then
the
those
ninth
same
overall.
people would have complained that he didn't do anything.
And then once
That's
again,
what I was
I'm just
saying.
going to say, like the 9th overall pick.
No,
what
I
is that?
disagree
What is
with
that? I just think too the whole argument about this draft has been, my argument has been that the draft is so unpredictable, and every player that we've wanted or was projected to go to us at 9 wasn't available at 9.
Mhm.
Like it would have been a whole different story if we thought a Hughes would drop, or we even Kent Johnson or someone like that. But it was clear to them, I think, that they weren't getting any of the players that they wanted at that pick. And I don't know, this is the first time I think I've ever seen the Canucks take 2 people from Belarus, let alone back to back, which might just mean that, like I've outlined before, that there's just so many question marks in this draft, and maybe that 9 pick really didn't have that much value in the terms of the trading. This is one thing too that just sucks. Obviously, we don't ever have that behind the scenes or real understanding of what these people value it for. I think that 9 is always valued as a high pick, but I just have this irking that they're probably using that as a way to not pay that much, because it's like, well, I don't know, you could probably get the guy at 9 that you want. You can probably get him at 14. You can probably get him at 23.
Yeah, I mean,
look at Ottawa. Sorry to cut you off. I'll just say this: like they were scrutinized for all their picks, like being projected way higher than they are. Either that's like an ingenious way of saying that they just had guys they wanted and they stuck to them, or it was them showing that their draft boards were so different than everyone else's because this year's so out of whack in terms of ranking.
I mean, if that's a totally valid argument that it's an odd draft or whatnot, so maybe that 9th is less valuable. But I think if you look at it, I think that that 9th is probably worth a 16th overall, give or take, in another year. I think is probably where I'd place that 15th, 16th overall. So I do still think I don't really, it never fit the vision of how I would build this team. I really thought we were so close to finally getting away from this crap. The Schmidt situation, I don't know if we plan on getting that, but it's interesting. I'm very curious to see if someone's willing to take him on.
I think they will. It's one bad year. I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not an Oliver Ekman-Larsson contract. I don't know. I don't think he slipped down nearly enough to freaking have his value decrease that much. And if you can get a 4th round pick for him, whatever, do it. You're only losing a 3rd. So I don't think it's going to be a hard contract to move. I don't know if Benning's telling the truth when he says there's a lot of interest, because he did. Obviously, he's going to say that, but I don't see it being a very hard contract. I just don't. It's one bad year, and he's a pretty good defenseman in any other year. So
I feel like the opportunity cost to not take him too might be harder to figure out, I guess, throughout the league. And once free agency hits, I feel most of the teams are going to, maybe who wanted a Dougie Hamilton, not saying these guys are comparable, but who are wanting those top 3, 4, 5 available guys, realize their range is actually now 9 or 8.5 because these guys sign these huge, like, I'm unsure what free agency looks like. And I think that may pan out what I honestly, I'm surprised to see this many big moves this early because of free agency. Like there's just so many available guys, and you're starting to see some get locked up now, but the dominoes should always lead to the next one. And
well, this offseason should be easier to trade away defensemen because so many were taken by Seattle.
Yeah.
It should be easier. So in theory, it shouldn't be an issue. So I'm watching to see what happens here, and seeing if anyone's willing to, because I do worry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not concerned. But what I wanted to touch on was us trading that first round pick, because you mentioned it. Obviously, you didn't want to take that route. I mean, we had three players in mind that I heard repeatedly that we were interested in. It was Luke Hughes, obviously, Kent Johnson, and there's one more, Brant Clark. They're all taken before 9 anyways. If those players hadn't been taken and we had the chance, then I would have changed my opinion on the trade. But the fact they were taken, I mean, those are the 3 guys we singled on.
But you're still giving up an opportunity to get a very good player with a 9th overall pick.
It's not a guarantee.
Yeah,
It's not a guarantee, Colin, but I can say that about every first round. We should just fucking trade every first round pick then, because it's not a guarantee that they're good. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument.
I still disagree. I'm sorry, I disagree. I don't agree.
No.
Honestly, we're at the point where we need to start winning games. And we can't wait for these kids to come in and develop. We just can't. We got to start winning.
Why?
Now.
Why can't we wait?
When we picked the silly put Coles in, like Binning's whole thing was that, well, it doesn't matter that he's locked up in Russia. We're gonna have to wait 2 years for this guy to develop anyway.
Yes.
Which I felt at the time was the perfect situation, because you're taking a player who was highly ranked top 3 in the draft for almost all of the season until that news came out. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a unique situation where Benning actually, once again, I thought played the smart route of like, well, we're not going to be competing until this guy's here anyway. Mm-hmm. So like, what's the point? And I just think that, yes, you can continue to go down that route, but I just feel that maybe because, and you know what, unfortunately, maybe because their contracts are both only up in, a couple of years, coach and GM, unfortunately, that might push the pedal a little bit more, where, like you say, maybe if they're locked in a little bit longer, they wait out 1 more year, make a deal or 2 to get rid of some of those contracts and bring a guy in. Question is, do we find a guy like Connor Garland? I guess that will wait out on the jury. Same with Ekman Larson, if those guys became available down the road. Mm-hmm. But then you could use that 9th pick, wait it out. But I think maybe having that short term really pressures them to unfortunately do that.
Sure.
And I just think that, I don't know, like you say, that we have such an opportunity within the next 3 years to hopefully get these guys on cheap contracts, that it's a mistake to not try and win, essentially this year, next year, and the year after that. And just, I think taking a gamble on a guy that might be ready in 2 years is not the best bet for, once again, I guess that's my view of the organization. But
in my opinion, this type of trade, there's a lot, it tells the players that, like, let's go, like, we're ready to go now. And if you take your approach and it's like, okay, sorry guys, we're gonna give you 1 more year and then we'll be ready to go. You don't want to hear that as a player. And that's exactly what this trade tells them. Hey guys, we believe in this core. Let's get going. It's time to win now.
Like, I want to see the signs that your team can be pushed to.
We saw that in the bubble. The way they played.
We barely squeezed into 1 playoffs. We couldn't make it into playoffs in a weak Canadian division last year. I mean, we are adding to this team pushes them to maybe make the playoffs. It's not pushing them into cup contender status. So for me, I want to see a team that, okay, they're starting to make the playoffs consistently, but they're not a top 3-4 team in the league. And now you make this deal of, okay, let's push all in. That's the right timing.
I also want to see a year where all of our top players are actually healthy for the entire season too. That'd be a unique thing, because Brock Besser and obviously not been healthy his entire career, and same with Petey. So those are big factors that play into it too, right? Like if Pettersson's healthy the whole year, there's a high chance we could squeak in. I feel like he's that kind of player that he affects our lineup that much.
We were quite bad last year.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, these are the kind of people that step into a lineup and it changes the difference when it's fucking a Jay Beagle or Louis Eriksson or Antoine Roussel strapping up the skates because someone's fucking injured. It's a little bit different than when Pettersson, Hughes, or these big players step out there and I think make that impact.
One thing I wanted to just comment on what you just said was you want a team that cannot just make the playoffs in the cup. I get that, but you have to I think with this group, they're going to have 3 or 4 years of losing in the playoffs until they get to that contender status. And they have to start that now, though. With Carolina, they're in the same thing. Chicago went to the same thing. LA went to the same thing. Pittsburgh went to the same thing. It's very rare that you have a young group that wins a cup their first fucking year that they become an elite team. You have to go through the growing pains. I guarantee you this group is going to win or lose 3 or 4 tough playoff rounds. We might even get to the cup final and lose, but you have to go through that as a group. And 4 or 5 years down the road is when we could win a cup, but you have to build up to that. You don't just.
And we're gonna have no prospects pushing in.
You don't know that. We're still gonna have first round picks every year. You just gotta do good on them. You have to.
I mean, we've traded away 2 of the last 3.
It's 2 second
other
round
ones
picks. It's
count.
not the end of the world.
The other
It's
ones-
2 second round.
Yeah,
picks.
two of our last 3,
It's not
but
a
that's
big deal.
also
It's not a big
like
deal.
pretending that JT Miller's nothing and Oliver
You have
Ekman
to
might be
start the
nothing.
process with-
Sure,
now.
but my point is those guys help bolster on entry level deals, right? This is my vision, my way of building a team. How I see it is.
But have you seen a
I've always
consistent?
been
I
consistent with
know.
them.
But have you also we have also not seen a consistent layout of prospects actually flourishing in our system, unless
Only
they're
the first round picks.
unless they're first round picks. Which this is probably the only year where it was up in the air. Almost every other year, it was a for sure hit on that pick for that spot. And I mean, unfortunately, that means Jake Virtanen. But like every other pick has been a whiff, almost, right? Like there's not many other players that make an impact in our lineup besides the first round picks.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just once again, I feel like this is the year that we would see, if anything, us whiff. I think on that 9th overall pick because of the players we did want being available gone.
I have a vision just of how I would build out a team and manage an organization, and they just continue to not be anywhere near how I would do it.
I don't know, me too, but I can also have a bit of, and then I have to take into consideration their perspective and empathy and go from there with how we live our lives.
Which leads me to my closing point from the start of, okay, fine, I don't agree with what you're doing, but you better win now. You have to win now. They have to make the playoffs.
When you say win, what do you mean?
They have to make the playoffs this year, and it's got to be convincing. It can't be
Okay,
just
that's
squeezing.
fine.
If they don't make the playoffs this year, this is a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I agree.
horrible.
I'll say
It's so bad.
if we
I agree,
squeeze
I
in and
agree.
compete from then on, I mean that's a different story though.
You
I'll say
have
that.
to.
But-
You have to keep making the playoffs. You have to be in this year. You can't barely make it in. You got to make it in fairly comfortably. Like you don't have to be first seed, but you should be the 6th, 7th seed. You shouldn't squeeze in by 1 point. You got to be a decent team this year. If you don't make the playoffs, it's bad.
We'll be a playoff team for the next couple of years, but I don't think we'll be a contender for a couple of years just because they need to go through those growing pains.
I do think that sure. I do think that this team's better than last season for sure.
Yeah.
But I want it noted that we all agree that it is a disaster.
Yeah.
If we don't make the
That's
playoffs this year.
fair. I agree.
I want that noted
And it needs
because
to be convincing. Yeah, I agree with that.
it has to be.
And what I'll say is you seem like you don't like the idea of having no prospects in the pipeline, but the LAs and Chicago's and all them, they're young players that came up were like 3rd, 4th round picks. You just have to draft well. It doesn't have to be a first round pick. So you insulate into the lineup.
But I wouldn't quite do it yet, right? Like my point
I
is
just
you
don't-
want to have good pieces in there because we are
We
not
have good pieces.
but we are not who?
Wait, for young players, you mean?
Yeah, who?
We have Hoglander.
No, not in the
Wilson.
lineup. Not in the lineup. Guys who are going to be coming in later to bolster this lineup.
Right, and we still have every year that we keep going, we're going to make draft picks, and some of them will be ready right off the way, right? Some of
And
them
my
won't. Some of them
point
will be
is
steals.
you need to keep building that until you are on the cusp.
You can't just have 600 NHL prospects and then go, oh, we're ready now. There's not a specific number. You just draft and you hope to develop.
I'm just saying this is not the time to be trading around a first round pick.
I disagree completely.
I
know
you do because there's never a bad deal for you, Colin.
That's not true at
There's
all.
nothing bad we've ever done. There's no trade or signing that has ever been shit. He's always going to come in. He's always going to work his shit out. He's
What did I
always going
say
to
this
improve.
was a good trade?
He's always going to improve.
I never said
He's
this
always
was-
going to be like, oh, what did you say? Garland's going to be the perfect fit for Bo Horvat. Like, it's always fucking Dickinson's going to turn into a 3rd line center. It's all this shit. It's always going to improve. There's never the chance that this player is going to regress.
I've said so many times I think this trade could be a total bust. I said the first day it happened it could be a total bust. I'm choosing
You've also
see
said
the
you like
best.
the trade.
I choose to see. I'm sorry that I
You
choose.
started this off by
I-
saying I like this
After a
trade.
few days of thinking about it, I decided I like the trade.
You liked it the first day. We
I
were
don't
all
like
in
it.
that group
I'm in
message.
the middle. I'm in
We
the
were
middle.
all in that group message.
I'm in the
dude.
middle. I'm just choosing. I choose to
I've
see the
never
other
seen
side.
something you don't like.
I choose. That's not true at all. That's a bullshit statement right there.
Give me one. One off
The
the bat.
last year, I've been preaching that Benning's the shittiest
Yeah,
team
but
in
give
the
me
league.
one deal he's done that off the bat you didn't like.
Off the bat, I didn't like. Well, I can't name it off the top
Yeah,
of my
of
head.
course you can.
I don't know off the top
Because
of
it
my
doesn't
head.
exist.
It's not true at all.
That is the 100% truth.
No, it isn't. I disagree. I think you're. I'm not trying to knock you, but I think you're extremely pessimistic, and I'm a little overly optimistic.
You love everything, and
I
some
don't.
things I like,
I
some things I
don't.
don't like.
I
I
don't
liked
know.
the JT Miller trade. It was a good trade because JT Miller was
Okay, give me
easily
an
one of the
example of
first.
a trade you didn't like, and I'll see how I think about it right now. I can't name it off the top of my head. I don't have them. in my
Nate
head.
Schmidt,
Nate Schmidt. It's not looking like a great trade right now.
but
is
you
it?
liked it right off the bat.
It was a third round pick.
You
It
loved
Yeah.
it.
was a
Yeah,
third
for the
round
trade
pick.
off, once again,
We'll
opportunity
go through
third
this.
round
You
pick.
like the Dickinson. You
I
like
like
the Nate
Dickinson.
Schmidt. You like the Meyer signing. You liked this
I
trade.
don't like Myers signing anymore.
But you did every single fucking deal. There's not one that after the bat you were like, not very good.
Can I
It's
tell you one
always-
thing? The Myers signing, I was never like, holy crap, this is the signing of the century. I thought it was meh. I always said that. It was meh.
We can go back on the pods and listen to it.
I would love to because you're stretching my words right now.
Oh,
You are.
There's
You're
never
totally
been a
stretching
bad
my
move.
words.
There's never been
That's
a
not
bad
true at
move.
all. It's
Yeah,
not true at
it's
all.
always
The
good.
Beagle signing was terrible. Those signings were not Russell.
And I remember exactly what you said about the Beagle signing. You need to add these depth pieces.
Yes, but not. I
It's
never
just
said that.
regurgitated.
I never said
It's just
that. Cat.
regurgitated.
I
Benning.
never said
It's
that.
like
Cat.
you listen to the Benning presser and just regurgitate.
I
it.
never said that fucking cap. You're completely twisting my words right now. I'm gonna kick your ass. You're trying to fucking piss me off. You're twisting my words so badly right now. It's not even funny. Like there's a straight line of words I have, but you're going fucking way up to Mexico with them. I never. Fuck you.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I've always been right. So that's all I can say. I don't know. Jim Benning might be wrong, but I've always been right.
No, okay. I've been pretty negative the last year over this team. Like pretty damn negative. So I mean, I just
But that's not the
honestly
point I
feel
was making.
no, I know, but I honestly do feel like what else do you want the guy to do in a trade like this?
You
What
don't
else?
make that trade. That's what I want.
No, I disagree. I'm sorry.
And that's fine. You want to push all in and go. I want to do a
No,
slow
I want to start
build.
winning with the core that I can see on paper is a good core.
And that's fine. And you're allowed to want that. I'm just saying I don't want that. This is not
Okay.
the path I see.
Okay, but with your path, the players that are on your team that want to be here are getting impatient and going to think that you don't care about winning.
We waited so many years. We've been waiting years. We're one more year away from my plan. Finally my plan gets to happen. I've been waiting.
Okay,
and you
but
just
after the
know
year-
Jim's gonna fuck it
After
up.
the year they just had with COVID, and that was probably one of the worst years of their career they're ever going to have. You think they want to do that again? They don't want to do that again. They want to start winning. The year they just had was probably the shittiest year as an organization you can have. So you want to do it all over
We
again?
were,
I don't
it was
know,
the
and I,
right
like-
responsible decision in my mind.
I don't know.
You
I
gotta
just think
shed
too, like
light on that.
looking at guys like Bo Horvat, if we wait 2-3 more years, he's turning on 30, you know?
One
Like,
more year. We're 1 year away. We're 1 year away from being able to get to do what I finally wanted
So
to
what-
okay,
do.
What do you
wait,
tell the
wait, wait,
players in
wait,
that
wait.
situation? You say, hey, we're 1 year away. Sorry, guys, you're gonna have to just play hard.
You
for
lock
1 year.
up PD and Hughes to long-term deals and say, we got our cornerstone pieces locked up long-term. We're going to be a good team long-term. This is the start.
With
of
what
an era.
money?
Trade out Nate Schmidt. Don't make this deal. Trade out Nate Schmidt. Buy out Jake Virtanen. There you go. You lock them both up 8
What?
years. That's what I would have done. I would have locked up Hughes and PD 8 years.
For how much?
I think I always said I thought
Because-
for 8
because-
years you would need 9 for Hughes.
Yeah.
And I thought you'd be probably 8 for PD.
9 and 8 for PD.
That's what I wanted to do. I want to lock them up long term. I think it's the smart investment, and that's what I'd want to do.
And what if they want more because we know that they're looking at like 10 million a
You're
year
looking at
each
9 million,
players?
9 million minimum.
Okay, and maybe that's the deal. I think it pays
That's
off. It's an investment. This cap is going to grow. They're your 2 best players. That's what I would want. We're going to just have to pay them more, right?
Okay.
So it's investment. That's what you do. You invest in your best players on long-term deals. So at the start, it seems like a lot of money, but in 5 years, when what is 9 million in cap is the equivalent of 6, you're really getting a huge benefit.
And then the Tyler Myers contract is even worse because he's older by then, and then we get to complain about that, and then we have to try and move. And then we have to try and move that contract, and then half of our players in the bottom 6 will be too old by then, so we'll have to try and replace them, and then it'll be a whole fucking deal. I just think that there's never going to be a perfect time to do anything.
Keep taking on these shitter contracts.
Can I say one thing? With your philosophy, I think that as a GM, I don't think you'd ever get anything done because you would try to wait for the perfect thing, and it just doesn't exist.
Potentially.
I think your plan would blow up in a year.
Fiscally very responsible. Absolutely.
It's way too responsible.
I think that it's a very much invest in your highest talent pieces and try to bring in. So your team, I would build a very top heavy team.
I know, but then I guess just like, okay, so you would wait one more year on all these young players, is what your plan would be.
I would lock up Hughes and PD.
No, just mean whatever. So we wait one more year, and then they'll be ready to compete, I guess.
Well, then you can start. You have all your cap space now available, other than Myers and Schmidt. Hopefully, I'd be trying to get Schmidt off the books, so you have that one bad contract, and then you can build around them.
So then you would also be looking at not having any depth at defense. You'd have to be trying to go out and get that.
I don't think it'd be that bad. You would need to add a defenseman, absolutely, probably 2. So you would have Hughes, Myers, Rathbone, Ulevi, and then you'd have to have 2. So you need to have 1 depth, and you need to add 1 really good right side.
And I think the formula for success, with at least looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they've just done it the most often recently, is to have at least 3 veteran style players available, which they don't have to be the most expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that taking a bite on someone like Oliver Ekman-Larsson is going to help them lay out, having someone, even honestly letting Hughes be the core at the number 1, having Oliver Ekman-Larsson as a core piece at your second line pairing, which unfortunately they might play together, which once again, this is a coaching philosophy. I'm okay with the GM philosophy at this point. The coaching is out the fucking window. But then your third line pairing would be Myers and Ulevi. Right. And they would play the best hockey that they can play. But clearly that's not going to be the plan. But I think you have to go that route of having 3 staple pieces like that, and then surrounding them with younger players. Hopefully Rathbone can compete at the NHL level, and maybe you can bring in another guy. But I just think that with the trajectory of the way the NHL is going and the way that the cap is going, it's just going to be even harder and harder to get, I guess, acceptable players to be on decent contracts. Like, I think, unfortunately, yes, people might say the Ekman-Larsson is overpay even at 7.2, but we also just know that he has been able to play at a certain level. If he can get to that, then that is where it pays off. But once again, if it's a bad gamble, then who knows? Yeah. And the thing about the Nate Schmidt deal that I guess we'll defend is just that I guess we'll probably never see the fruition of that unless it's a clear turnaround. Like, unless Jim Benning ends up trading him for a second round pick. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, well, you traded a third, you got a second. That's clearly more value. Or he ends up bringing in a decent staple piece to play in our defense at a cheap contract, something like $3 million or something, and it works out. Then it's like, okay, but would you trade a third round pick last year for this? And I guess that'll end up being the cause, because look at, once again, what our third round picks have been nothing for this organization. So we can't expect that to have turned out into anything. Mm-hmm. So if we're able to flip him around, or like I say, if he was able to figure it out and they were just able to find a partner for him and it worked, but like you say, clearly it seems like the relationship's pretty much done.
And the other thing I don't understand is, okay, so Ekman-Larsson's on the left side. So now you got Hughes, Ekman-Larsson, Ulevi, and Rathbone on the left side. You got Schmidt and Myers on the right. Schmidt should be going out of town, so you got 2 holes still on the right side you got to fill.
Well, as Collins pointed out a lot, they don't seem to mention Ulevi's name very much when they talk about our young defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the odd man out, which sucks. And I might be a fan of whatever team he goes to. I hope it's Seattle. I could be a Seattle fan real quick. We'll replace this one with a Seattle, Yanni Gord jersey, and it'll be perfect.
Okay, I have 2 things I want to float by Dylan here. So the first thing is, if you were in Benny's position and you told Aquilini, look, I want to wait 1 year. I don't want to do anything. I want to wait 1 more year. And then this is where my plans come to fruition.
Mhm.
But then he says, well, too bad. I pay you money to do as I say. This is what you're going to do. And if you don't like it, well, then I guess, we have a difference here. What would you do in that situation?
So first of all, we don't know that conversation was had.
Okay, but there's a good
Wait,
chance it did.
wait. And I am not just strictly hating totally on betting. I'm a fan. I'm hoping my organization follows what I want them to do. You want to look individually and go that route? Okay, we need to have context of what was happening. Then you want to go that route? Okay, give me, if I have the exact scenario where that comes up,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm in that job,
Yeah.
you have to do something. We don't know that that's the case. And as a fan, I don't give a fuck. I want them to follow the path I want. You want to put me in the GM position and have me in that spot and have Aquilini tell me that, okay, I would be trying to add pieces on short-term deals, but I wouldn't be throwing away a first-round pick, and I wouldn't be taking on long-term bad contracts. I would tell the guy, okay, I'm going to do my absolute best, and I would lay out a plan to try to do the short-term without sacrificing my actual long-term goal.
Okay, what if you didn't like that? I mean,
then you probably have to find a new job. I've been in jobs where I think my boss is a fucking idiot. And then what most people do in that point is if you're not allowed to do what you want and you're being pretty much given bad advice by your boss, you usually quit. You usually find a different job.
Okay, my second point is, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I remember at the time he signed Myers, he was a right shot D, he logs a lot of minutes, and there was like no other options available. But and then you would say, oh well, I don't sign him then. But in saying that, right shot D in this league that can play top 4 minutes are very hard to find, which is why they're not traded often. If you don't got Myers there in that situation, for all we know, we're still looking for that right shot defenseman, and we don't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Because free agency, as far as I'm concerned, haven't been available, and trade, you can't just trade for one. They're so hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to factor that in. I'm not saying I would have signed that contract, but that could be very well by you as overpaid, $1.5 million, let's say. I don't know. I'm still saying, where do you get that defenseman?
It just might be one of those things that you have to do to be a staple piece to your organization. Unfortunately, it's kind of like in football. It's your left tackle. Like, you're gonna pay him whatever you want, or whatever he wants, really, if he's good. Mm-hmm. If he's like culpable and able to do his job, perfect. Yeah. We'll pay him whatever he wants because he protects the quarterback. And unfortunately, that might be the case here.
So if you remember back to that time, it was a year after we had done the whole Beagle, Roussel deals. And my thought was always, okay, we're going to be bad for a few years anyway. So I didn't really hate the Beagle and Roussel deals. They aligned up with our other bad contracts coming off the books. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that, okay, this is fine because really next year was the year that I always pictured this, my idea of how you build this out becoming a thing. Yeah. So I would have done exactly the same thing, whereas I bring on a guy, I probably overpay him, and his term would be ending after this year. That's what I've been trying to do.
Fair enough. I don't know. Myers does play a lot of minutes. Yeah. A lot of minutes. And as far as I'm concerned, I've been a hockey fan for a long time. Right shot D are fucking rare to have. So that's one of the reasons why the day it was signed, I was okay with it.
Let's just say this. At the end of the day, we know that Dylan would probably last about 2 weeks with the Vancouver Canucks as the GM, only because we know that like Aquilini wants to win now, like yesterday and today and tomorrow.
This is how
and it's unfortunate, but yeah.
He'd say, I want to win now, and I would say it's not possible. And then the interview would be over.
Yeah, it would pretty much.
Fair. That's fair.
No, the thing would be like, okay, when I ask you a question, what do you say? And he's like, no. And he's like, all right, we had a great day. Thank you. That was enough time.
Yeah, and we've always wanted someone to tell them no. That we've talked about it multiple times, and yet here we are saying, well, he wanted it, so the GM had to say yes. No, we need someone who's actually understands what's going on and telling the guy, this is a bad plan, this is not going to work here. It's a very temporary band-aid solution. If we want to be that middle team, the Nashville Predators of the world, the Minnesota Wild, this team that's always just barely a playoff team and remains that over a 10-year timeline. Okay, let's be that. But that's what we're about to be. That's what we're moving towards in my mind.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part is that, like, at the end of the day, I'm always, like you said, I'm probably one of those people who's same thing. I'm always optimistic or I always try to find the silver lining in the trade or in the signing or in something. And then sometimes it's just like, well, shit. It doesn't end up working out. That's fine. But maybe I try and find the reason behind the reaction almost. But yeah, I don't know. Just there's so many times where I don't even know what to say anymore. Like Benning just puts situations. I guess, I don't know. They just put themselves in situations where at the end of the day, nothing really has changed. So as much as I'm always looking at like, this is what could happen. And I'm sitting here saying, hopefully they made a philosophy change of let's win now and let's find ways to execute that. And this is what's happening. But I also have to remind myself that we still have the exact same people and maybe a new defensive coach. And he's not going to make a whole lot of big calls in probably the decision-making of the organization. So there's really not much that's changed over the last decade. So that's the one thing that I guess I even have to remind myself of like, I have all these things that I think will happen, but well, we still have the same people. We still end up, like you say, complaining about the same things.
And that is the thing that you just reminded me of. It is my complaint all along was there was no foresight. And you're right, nothing changes because, you look back and I said, how does this cap structure work? There's no way we're going to be able to bring back Tanev. There's no way we're going to bring back Markstrom. I said they would have to have a magic wand. And of course they didn't. And they were gone. And now you look again and I'm just saying, okay, how are we actually going to get to be a real cup contender? And I can't see it. And I have to be told to see it, and I just don't see it. I don't see a path, and I feel like it's just always, there's never a vision. It's always right now, this is what we're going to do right now to become the best right now. It's never, ever, ever a long-term approach that makes sense. There's no vision. It's just now. And that's what bothers me so much.
Right now, there is a bit. At the moment, I'd say there is a vision, and that's they're going to go ahead with this group. This is the group. If we win a cup, and if they're expecting us to win a cup, this is the group they're going to do it with. Because we pretty much filled this team out besides a couple defensemen. Like, if you look at the lineup here, that's going to be pretty much our lineup going forward for the next how long?
So JT Miller, Pettersson, Besser.
McEwen's not a centerman.
No, I know.
Was.
I'm just saying for the most part, that's pretty much what our
besides your fourth line, which you would hope that you could fill out with actual prospects, but we won't do that. So it'll end up being short-term deals.
You need two guys, and then you need two right side defensemen. One right side defenseman needs to be really good.
But I'm saying that 90% of the team is there.
4 guys. We need 4 guys.
Yeah. That's not a huge deal.
I mean, how many teams need more than 4 guys right now? It's pretty significant.
I mean,
we also got to okay, he's going to bring in 4 guys. He's got to re-sign Garland. He's got to re-sign Petey. He's got to re-sign Hughes. Like, that's a lot of shit to do, man.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the guys who we have here, the guys in place, we got to get them signed, but they're here. They're not on different teams. I'm saying our lineup it's here on paper. My point is there's a lot to do in a month and a half. Yeah, and that's why Benning just made that trade. It just freed up like what, $5 million. He's got to trade. He's gonna probably trade Smith. Mm-hmm. He's probably gonna end up trading Holtby.
And I'm sure the Schmidt thing, he might be trying to do exactly that, wait out the right-handed defenseman to take over. But yeah, like you said, I think most of our team is here, and I think where we might be at this win now mentality, we're also might be at this point where it's okay, here's the lineup. Now, it isn't exactly win now, but look at if everyone is locked up at decent team-friendly contracts that make sense for the next 3 to 5 years of, okay, even if we have one bad year, everyone's locked up, everyone's here. Like you say, you're going to end up you're going to end up needing a backup goaltender too, eventually, next year at least. So there's these things that you're constantly going to be replacing, the last man on your roster almost, like for the next little bit. And that's okay if that's for one more year while they see if certain guys, if a Gadjevic makes sense on a fourth line, or if certain players end up panning out, or whatever happens with free agency and waivers and stuff like that.
Okay, so right now we've got 21 million in cap space. Lose Schmidt, there's another 6 here, 27.
And then Holtby, let's say we retain $1 million on that, so that's $3 more million.
But you got to bring the goalie too.
Let's pretend. Let's
So
pretend
two.
we don't even
Okay,
move him.
sure.
I don't
That's
think
something
we're
that's
gonna-
going to
I think it's
happen.
hard. I know, I
that
don't
won't
think
happen.
Fine.
So 27.
Okay.
We got to do. We got to re-sign Dickinson.
Yeah.
How much?
I'm gonna say three. I don't know.
Let's call it 3. You're at
Let's say 3.
24. You're at 24. Then you need to re-sign Pedersen. How much?
It depends if it's a long-term or bridge
Just,
deal.
what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know, 9.75, let's say.
Do you think it's going to be 9.7?
If it's a long-term deal, I don't know.
But they're
I
talking
don't-
short.
No,
It's gonna be
I'm
like
saying like
7.
7.
Yeah.
7 by 3.
Okay,
So we're
fine.
down to 17. Now Hughes, how much is Hughes getting?
Same idea. So
Let's
7 by
say
3,
7.5. Let's say, just for the
Okay,
sake of it.
9.5 we got. Then you
Garland.
need to do Garland.
Let's say
4.5.
4.2.5.
Okay,
I
4.5.
think it'll be at 4.5.
Because let's just do that because it's easy numbers.
Yeah, so you're down to
Here.
5. You're down to 5 million.
Yeah.
With that 5 million, you gotta sign 2 right side defensemen and 2 fourth liners with 5 million.
Okay. Well, that's.
I do think Holtby gets moved though.
I actually think Garland gets more than 4.5.
And you gotta remember Bertan and the buyout to give us some.
I wouldn't be
expecting it.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Garland did like even 4 by 4.
I think Garland will get.
I think he can get a lot more, but I
Five
feel
and
like
a half.
that's one of those conversations that they probably had prior to a move of like, hey,
Garland will probably be between 4 and 4.5.
Okay, but how is Dickinson 3 to 3.5 if Garland's 4 to 4.5? Because I mean, Garland's a much better player.
Well, again, as I said, Dickinson is a center. If he was a winger, he'd be getting less in my terms. But he's a center who can shut down the other team's top lines. And in my opinion, that's so valuable to have.
and Garland is good, but I feel like maybe for them it might be a conversation of sample size versus contract length.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, yes, you've done good, but we need to see that more consistently. So let's try and do same thing with all these other guys. We're going to do a 3 to 4 year deal, but assuming you're going to be getting more, or even with someone like him, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even 2. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, okay, let's get it to the end of this flat cap era,
Mhm.
and then plan for a
Sure.
backloaded contract. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that conversation is being had with most of the players.
And even with this lineup, like I don't mind, still don't mind Horvat going down third line center and Jason Dixon being the fourth line. You still have that flexibility in like if you want to do that eventually, to have Miller on that second line, which in my opinion, I want to see how Horvat does considering I think what they're going to do is they want to see how Horvat does because Dickinson's going to take over a lot of his responsibilities. So they want to see what Horvat is without that responsibility.
Mhm.
But in the future, I wouldn't mind at all if Horvat was our third line center. And I think they definitely are considering that.
That's the position where you're competing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but then once again, that's only if you've got someone to fill in a top line
Yeah.
winger position.
Mhm.
So let's say Hoglander moves up to the first line with Pedersen. You've got Miller and Garland as your second line right now.
Mhm.
Then you'd have Bo with Pearson, Podkolzin, or
Yeah,
Podkolzin
that's-
moves
that'd
up.
be a great
I don't
third
know.
line.
Even
Yeah.
Podkolzin, who knows what his skill level will be like coming into the league.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean that's where you'd be in the position to really compete
But-
long term.
If we did that, Horvat has to become better defensively
Yes.
because that
Yes.
third line center
I don't-
role
I-
has to be good defensively.
No, it
I
doesn't.
think so.
Or Miller
I don't.
has to do it.
I don't think
Yeah.
that. I just don't think that the position or where you sit in the lineup matters.
Oh,
But you
Like
want
because okay,
Bo-
that's fine. That's fine if Bo Horvat's your third line center. If fucking Jason Dickinson's your fourth line center and you're giving him more responsibility on those
But every
penalty killing
minute
and
you give him
defensive
eats
roles.
into one of those 3 lines, right? So you don't like you're facing Edmonton. You're not going to match up Dickinson's fourth line up into McDavid because then you're splitting the remaining bit of the game, the 40 minutes left between 3 lines.
I know, but you'd
It
also
just doesn't
hopefully
make
be
sense.
presenting him with players who can also make up for that defensive liability if that's a concern.
I know, but you're just gonna have very few minutes because you're gonna want to play Petey's line a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then Horvat's line gets 8 to 10 minutes a night. It doesn't make sense.
Seems to work for Tampa Bay. Seems to work in Tampa Bay. So I don't know. You figure it out. You run 4 fucking lines, you win.
I I hear you there. I do agree with Colin. One of JT Miller or Bo Horvat would have to take on the matchup role.
I think, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm leaning with Dylan here. I don't know if I necessarily agree. I don't watch a lot of Tampa Bay, but
I mean, yeah, at the same time, they got a Sorelli, who's like the best two-way foot center in the fucking league at their third line. But I'm just trying to say they also have a useless fourth line center in Pat Maroon. Like when you come to defensive terms.
Is he a center?
Yeah, he's their fourth line center. I swear.
Maroon?
It doesn't regardless, their fourth line is okay. Maybe it's Ross Colton. Maybe it's fucking who? Matthew Joseph. I don't know.
I thought it was Puckett.
No, he plays on
No,
Carolina.
it's not Paquette,
He has been gone for a while. But yeah, it's just that at the end of the day, I just think that if you've got the players to fill in the positions, whether they like again, I'm so sick of being locked in a position and then not being able to do other things. Like your fourth line winger could also maybe be your third line or your second defensive freaking penalty killing role. Be like if they're just good at what they're good at. Like I said, JT Miller is your best face-off man on your team. He doesn't even take face-offs. So clearly they don't fucking care about what we seem to care about when it comes to defensive and offensive possession and roles, all these things. So what are we talking about? I get it. You do need that for sure. But I hope your lineup is a competent enough NHL lineup to be able to fucking do this stuff.
I do want to go back though, because those 4 players for $5 million. Okay, so you're gonna have Zach McEwen and Mott on that fourth line, so you're down to 3. So you're gonna have McEwen and Mott. You're gonna bring in a fourth liner.
Let's say it's Gadjevich. No, I don't think you bring in a fourth liner.
You just
can't. You have to.
That's how I.
You
think
have to,
too,
and it's the same thing. I think
that.
that's a freaking 8-minute line all night.
Hey, I'm with you. I like that.
Yeah,
plan.
that's my thing.
At that point, I must say that I would like to see Mott slide up the lineup a bit.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
But that brings down one of Podkolzin or Pearson or
And that's
Hoglander.
That's okay. Well, I wouldn't do Hoglander, but I'd do Pearson or Podkolzin, and they could easily go down to 4. That's not a big deal.
So that's one thing I will say. So I agree with you. So then you have $5 million. So if you're going to go that route, which I fully agree with.
Okay, wait here. I'll actually throw one more wrench in there. I don't think it would actually happen, but let's say they decided to move Bo down, Dickinson down. You could actually move Mott up to fill that top 6 or top 9 role. You could bump everyone if you had to, and he can then fill in whoever.
It makes more sense because who's going to play center on that fourth line right now? Maybe Mott.
Yeah,
so that actually makes
whoever.
more sense. And then you can bring that. You can rejig it so Mott gets in the top 9 without having to bring someone out. It makes so much sense.
Bottom line is there's a lot of flexibility, and that's important. You can move guys around, and you've got wingers playing center.
If everyone drops their ego and just buys into the system and what helps them break into zones and just get them to where they need to go,
if they're smart enough to do that, then they do have $5 million to spend on those 2 right side defensemen.
Pretty much.
So you bring in one for cheap, hopefully at $1 million, and then you can bring in someone for $4 million.
Yeah,
right at the cap.
Yeah, I think they'll.
And I think, like you say, this might be an opportunity or a year where you can talk to local guys who might want to just be home for now. Like, because I say Americans might not want to come here, but Canadians might want to be here. Yeah. So, that's why I actually thought, unfortunately, we might have been in the talks for Duncan Keith because it just kind of made sense. But I don't know, there might be guys available down the road that either get bought out or free agents that just might want to look for an opportunity to maybe win again and come home and be close to their families. So these are all factors that I hope they take into consideration because it is much more of a mind game than just fill this freaking square peg. I don't know. Fertana's gone too. Bye-bye. That's interesting.
See ya. See you later. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, nice to know you. See you never.
I don't have much to say about Vertanen. I'm just ready to move past that. But
yeah.
I mean, he wasn't that much the team. Who really cares? I mean,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I think I need results from the.
I agree. I fully agree. If this season doesn't go well, I agree with you. If they just barely make the playoffs, I agree with you. They need to fucking I'd say they need to look like they should be in the playoffs. They need to comfortably be in the playoffs.
At least
not this weekend. I don't want to see them fucking making the playoffs with 5 games left. I want to see them in the playoffs with 10 games left and just be like, oh, who's our first round opponent? Let's go.
Yeah.
And then that would be content with me. That's what I expect.
It has to happen now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can this team do it?
I think they
Maybe
can. On
we're in a
paper,
weak
they're
division.
looking they're looking pretty good on paper.
Yeah, and I don't like to. And I don't like to always be the grass is always greener guy, but or it could be worse. But if I'm looking at teams like Carolina right now, and I'm a fan there, or even team like Edmonton, Calgary, Montreal, I don't feel like they're making any of these real moves that help them. Even seem like they're progressing their team in any way to compete. And they're all in similar or further ahead than us in terms of being able to compete, which is very interesting to see. I don't know why Carolina decides to get rid of the reason why they even were in the playoffs with their goaltender.
Yeah,
and there's just things like that where, once again, yes, I hate to always be Benning's defender, but there could be a lot worse situations going on with us right now, and I think that I'm just content with the moves we've made thus far. If the contracts make sense and we're able to keep everyone, that's great. I hope that Ulevi's coming back, but it might be the odd man out with all those contract talks.
We got the saving grace of having a weak division.
I also don't know if we will be sure about our division until closer to the season.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've got a feeling that we might see another Canadian division.
Oh,
You think
really?
so? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. Just from everything that I've heard about the CFL and with the NFL and all the Canadian government in general, I really got a feeling that we might just see another Canadian division with some crossover. Once again, I have absolutely no facts to back this up, and I have no leaks or anything. This is just an
That would be
irk.
so painful. I could not do another 10 games in each year. I couldn't do it. It's painful.
It was so boring by the end.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
No,
but
they better not.
Unfortunately, it's what I have.
They better not.
My prophecy.
They should have done the freaking series style where you get a 7-game series against a team and then you move on to the next one. It would have been way more fun because by the end of that, okay, maybe you're bored game 5 in against Montreal and you're ready for a new team. But once you get that new team, it would have felt fresh.
Yeah.
By the end of that season, I just felt like I'd watched the same games go. I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I knew how it played out against each team. I knew where we struggled. We were never adjusting. It was just fucking so hard for me to watch.
I would not want to watch a 7-game series versus Ottawa or Winnipeg. I disagree. I couldn't do that. It'd be so boring.
It would have been boring by the end. I agree with you. We would have been winning, hopefully, against Ottawa. But at least there would have been some rivalries, I was hoping, and some fighting. And
I think if there was fighting, it would have happened.
And maybe you're right, but at least the silver lining of it would have been this, okay, those 8 games are done. We get to move on, and now we get to play a new team. I mean, at least you would have something fresh. By the end, last 15 games, I either didn't watch or forced myself to watch and was so bored.
It was awful.
At least
I think they're making a major mistake if they do that again because it's just go back. The MLB is back to normal. Just go back to normal, for fuck's sakes. Let's go. Come on.
Back to normal, but just now, Toronto will be returning to their stadium with probably very limited fans, and I don't know how long that will even go for because the Ontario government seems to be fairly locked down on this stuff. So I just have a feeling. That's all.
That's fair.
I haven't nothing to back it up.
By October that they freaking
I don't really want to get into this stuff, I guess, but let's just say this. I've read a headline from the CDC that they think this could be Delta variant could be the strongest, 1,000 times worse than the COVID, as well as the strongest virus we've ever seen in the world.
I saw that.
I'm just like, it hurts. It hurts. So I think
I'm not gonna comment on any of this stuff because that hurt. That's why.
Yeah, because you're already dying.
No, I'm not gonna comment on this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of key factors still to come, and if we can't even go across the border to go freaking do anything, well, I can't imagine they're going to be having players flying back and forth.
Well, I hope it changes by then.
Yeah,
That would
me
be
too.
good. Do we have anything else to touch on?
No, that's it.
I mean, there's so many topics, but no, we're done.
We're good. We did an hour. That's
Yeah.
plenty, I think. So.
Well, I mean, the Olympics are on right now. I don't know if you guys pay attention at all, but I think we won a couple silvers because we're pretty much a second tier country. But no, represent a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, go Canada.
We're horrible in the Summer Olympics.
Yeah, you know, we have our silver lining of like women's soccer. Will come out and like win on like the last day, right? Like they might be in the gold medal game, so it's just like right at the end we feel like we're top of the world. But yeah, then we end up like 38th in like gold medal rankings because we've got like 4 bronze.
But the winter, we're pretty good.
Watch out. They should give us like a couple more golds for our hockey team.
Yeah,
Like,
we should.
like
It's a way bigger deal.
They should be like, why do they only get one? Like, they should be one for each
I
player.
agree.
Give us a couple.
I know. It's like why you get one when like skeleton gets you one also?
Yeah.
Like they're not even
One man, one medal. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see, Olympic Committee. Let's revise that crap. I mean, we probably lose on everything. We probably even get more demolished in the Summer Olympics, but that's okay.
Yes.
That's a fair trade-off. We want to just be the winners for once. We got it for 1 year when we were in the Olympics.
I should watch the women's soccer now.
Yeah. I think they start out soon. I don't know. I saw some softball and baseball. I don't even think we didn't make it for baseball, but I don't think the MLB is even sending players.
Justin Marneau didn't make the team.
Yeah, no, we don't have our 38-year-old pitchers out there, but I don't think they even they send anyone from the MLB, obviously.
I have no idea.
So, because you would have heard about Bryce Harper.
Do you think the NHL is going to go to the Winter Olympics?
No,
Probably not.
they won't.
Where is it? You know, China.
Can't remember.
I feel like it's in China. I feel like it's Beijing. So probably not.
Always in China, isn't it?
Because they got a lot of money.
And people.
Got a lot of money.
Yeah, I think. Well, the players would be pissed if they don't go again
Yeah,
because that was part of the deal.
but I don't know. It seems like a lot of people probably didn't like the bubble either. So if it's going to be kind of like that again, like I've heard the Summer Olympics has not been a great experience for most.
Well, you're just sleeping on cardboard beds.
Yeah, it's bad.
I mean,
Yeah, and even too, like I heard, I was listening. There was like one reporter. His whole thing was like he, as a reporter, had to be like quarantined the whole time until his event was up, and then he could go to the stadium and report on the event or whatever, and then had to go back to the hotel. So
at
it's like
that
I
point,
would.
why do it even? Like,
That's just it. It's like it's
Why?
your job, but like that's brutal.
It's the time for the NHL and the players to get together. They have the same interests. The players want the Olympics, but really they just want competition at the highest level, which they could provide while also making profit.
Mhm.
So they need to combine together, make it as part of the CBA where that revenue gets split 50-50 and goes into the cap. And then you get together and figure this out. And they need to make it sweet. Money needs to be invested. There needs to be an opening ceremony. There needs to be a serious prize. They need to have medals. They need to have they should have a cash prize. The whole thing. Each player on the winning team should get $1 million. Make teams want to win this thing.
I don't know why the
it that
IHF
way.
doesn't like host something like that. Like even the World Cup of Hockey, like do that, but like make it like a real thing.
Yes.
Don't fucking put these North American
I
and
know.
European like
It ruined
make it like
ruined
literally
it.
make it a 16-team competition.
Yeah.
You qualify through your IHF
Yeah.
rankings or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and then you've got a mini tournament. Like they do this for all the other leagues.
That's why the NHL should do it though, because they got the most money. They have the most infrastructure around it. They could do it here in North America, but they have to do the major cash prize because otherwise no one will see it seriously. You have to have the cash prize, especially when you're starting it, to make it have that legitimacy of the Olympics. 10 years down the road, it won't matter as much because you'll have done 5 of them and everyone will have already wanted to win it. It'll be a part of the culture. But you have maybe you got to make the winning prize $3 million a player, whatever it is. But this needs to be serious, and then. You can get rid of this whole Olympic things. I don't really care if it's an Olympic gold medal or an NHL gold medal. I just want here's the best teams. They're all trying to win. They're all taking it seriously. Why go through this bullshit of going to China where there's fucking 6,000 billion people? Like just
6,000 billion. Eh?
yeah, there's
Probably
a lot.
close to that.
The team, the whole one thing I'll say is the team Europe and team North America thing in the World Cup was so pathetic. It's like you're gonna have McDavid not playing for Canada, or I get what they're trying to do, but it was pathetic. Like if you're a
Exactly.
player, it's like why do you care? Like this isn't a World Cup. This is a fucking tournament where I'm with a bunch of young stars. Like it was stupid.
Yeah, you just
It was the
don't.
worst fucking idea ever.
You don't do that for a series. That wasn't really supposed to be that serious of competition.
Well, it's a World
Yeah.
Cup. It should have been.
That's
But
what I
it
mean.
wasn't.
It-
But
it's
they
clearly-
won't do that in a serious one.
Yeah.
No, and that's why too. It gives you an opportunity to show off like this talent. I was talking about this today with someone else. It's like, yes, there's a lot of industrial barriers, and this is actually probably one of them for hockey too. But like, there's also a lot of individual barriers of you might not want to go do that, so you don't end up getting the opportunity. But if you had a big tournament like this, and we actually got to see these three guys from Belarus. I was going to say Belarusia. I keep trying to say that. Belarus. And see them actually compete with some of the best in the world, and you get a good idea of what they look like. But obviously we haven't had that for almost 8, or when was the last Olympics that they went to? 2018? 18 they didn't go. 16, so Sochi.
No, because the 18 would have been 14.
I don't even
So we're
know
almost
anymore.
8 years.
Yeah, and that was when Canada destroyed Sweden in the gold medal.
Yeah.
I stayed up for that bullshit.
I did too. It was like 4 a.m.
It's like, yeah, okay, it's 4-0, great. Like,
yeah,
I'm done.
you could tell. You just knew that it was one of those games where you knew we were gonna win.
Yeah.
Well, Canada has had that. We won, but it was close in 2010. The 14 we dominated. At the World Cup of Hockey, we freaking dominated.
Team Europe,
And every team, it was never even close.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to see if they always talk about how great America's getting and all these stars from other countries, but.
World Juniors were getting their asses kicked.
Yeah, but I've heard this story for 20 years, and then Canada goes and
The
dominates.
thing is that I think it's kind of a generational thing where so many great hockey players ended up in the States, and then they had their kids in the States, and they just became obviously part of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up competing for those teams where they wouldn't even get a shot on a Canadian team.
Mhm.
Not saying that they didn't have the value, like the actual talent or anything. It's just that because there's so many kids in Canada, you end up taking that opportunity and go play somewhere else, and then you've got guys like I don't know, the Canucks and all these things where okay, now you actually got a good group of young guys coming in at this level, and we just have been flaking on that a little bit in Canada.
I'm curious to see if they can do it though, because I feel like I've heard this story for many Olympics in a row, and there was a couple we struggled in, but mostly Canada dominates, and I'm curious if this group can be pushed, because odds are we just go in and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever will be pushed with their culture and the way we are. I just don't see it.
Yeah,
the way we bring up Canadian kids,
but they
it's
talk
like
like
hockey right away.
They talk like the States is gonna take us over one day.
They won't.
I see no
They
signs
won't.
yet.
It's not even close. It never will. I don't think it'll be close ever, just because of the way kids are brought up.
I know, because they just rave about that team. And yeah, you got Kane, and you got your Gaudreaus, and your Kachucks, and your Bessers, but
they're not even close to what we have.
No, I know. It's just ridiculous.
Like the 5 guys you just listed aren't even remotely close to what we have.
I know, but that's the one
David, Crosby.
Stamkos.
Like Gaudreau wouldn't even make our team. That's when you make our team. Those guys when you make our team.
Yeah, they got Matthews, and they put together this team always. But then when you compare it to the Canada team, we can just take centers and we could win. Like it's ridiculous.
I know. It's like who would be our goalie even? Price, I guess.
Price.
Still technically.
Price.
Still would be. Yeah.
Then
Carter Hart maybe be on that list somewhere.
Yeah, and there's one more that's pretty darn good too.
Shoot.
Off my head.
Oh, Fleury's still up there.
Yeah.
Shoot, there's one I can't think of right now.
Yeah. I know.
Well,
one.
I went to the 2010 Olympics and I got to see Russia play Slovakia in one of the qualifier games. And I went to shootout. They had like 8 rounds. Ovechkin shot, I think, 5 times. And I think he scored 3. Could be wrong.
But you can just shoot whenever, right?
Yeah, you can shoot once after the first 3. You can shoot as many times as you want.
That's super weird.
I love it though, man. Like the year where Taze and Price were on the team and Taze scored 3, it was so sick.
But the game winner, big upset, Pavel Dimitra.
Oh,
R.I.P. Had the game winner in the shootout for Slovakia to beat Russia. One other story, and this could be the end of it, was in the Winter Olympics. I can't remember what year it was. It was like early 2000s or so. There was a speed skater for Australia named Stephen Bradbury. And his whole claim was that he got in the qualifiers. In the qualifier round to get to the finals, everyone in front of him literally wiped out so bad that he was the only one standing. So he went across the line and qualified for the gold medal race. In the gold medal race, he was so far behind everyone else that when they all got wiped out too, he ended up winning the gold medal in consecutive races. People, everyone in front of him just got wiped out. So moral of the story, never give up. You might just, have a gold medal. Might have a gold medal just land right in your lap one day.
Literally.
So, all right, that was a good hour.
Hour and a half ish, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Okay. Hey guys, I gotta order my dad dinner.
Your dad dinner?
Yes, I do.
For moving or what?
No, he's just texting me. I got Colin going.
Thank you for listening to The Hockey Hour.